I want to make sure that we're getting these kids understanding that we got to get how they got to get to positions when they're passing. Always take the ball in front of them, use their legs and not swing their arms, okay? Everybody, you always see these little kids, they get there and then they swing their arms and the ball goes over the net or whatever. We want to make sure that they're using their legs, okay? So an example of that would be if a ball is right in front of me, I go down to the ball and come up, okay? I always tell the kids that if you put your hands under your arms and you kind of squeeze your arms, I always ask them, am I moving my arms? And the answer is no, because they're connected to my torso and my torso is moving. That's this position with your hip, that's what's getting the ball from point A to point B. It's not swinging your arms, okay? It's your hips and your legs, okay? So we got to really stress that. Always tell them to front the ball. That means get in front of the ball here, get in the front of the ball here, don't take this up here. I mean, of course, you're going to be in a situation where they're going to have to, so we understand that. So passing, and more passing. I would, when you're doing your practices, I would do passing until they can't see another ball, to be quite honest with you. Serving's the next huge one, okay? Because in this game, if we get the ball over the net, chances are, probably 85% of the time, we're gonna get a point. All right, so we gotta serve. Some of the kids can serve over the net from the end line. I think the 5th and 6th graders are gonna be serving from the end line. I think the 4th and 5th graders last year was, do you remember, was it 6 feet in? 6 or 8 feet in, something like that. If the kids are not strong enough to get it over the net, I would suggest a kind of a movement, a step movement as we call it. So depending if they're left or right-handed, right-handed, so there's only usually one lefty in the crowd. But you're going to be in a position where you're tossing, where you've got, your ready position. You want to step with your left, step with your right, toss, and then everything's going forward. Okay, we want to make sure that when they're tossing the ball's out in front of them here. Okay, you can tell when they toss the ball here and hit it over the net from back here, the ball goes like this. Okay, now again, if they get it over the net, we're excited. Okay. But if we can get them to get it over the net out in front of them, it's even going to be more better for those kids. All right, so serving and passing, again, those are huge skills that are going to get these guys from point A to point B. Rotations. How many of you guys know rotations or do not know rotations? Well, how many don't know rotations, I should say? Okay, so a few. All right, let's go over, can I get 6 volunteers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, if you can step off the court, let's get somebody in the left front right here. Let's get someone in the middle front right there, right front, left back, middle back, and right back. Okay, now two years ago when we rotated the server in, okay, we had the server on the sideline, the right side went, everybody rotates, and then the server goes back. I made a suggestion last year to just keep the right front in, have her serve because she's been playing in the game. She's not as nervous, after being on the bench for, a couple rotations. I finally get in and I miss my serve. So try and keep them in. After they're done with their serving routine, if they miss their serve or if they make it or whenever they lose their point, then you rotate. Then you put somebody in for that spot and then we rotate again, okay? So just so that you guys understand the rotations. We got right back, left back, left front, middle front, and right front, okay? Every time we rotate, I'm just gonna ask you guys to go clockwise, one rotation. Rotate one, okay? That's the first rotation, okay? Our server would go back to serve, right? She misses, new person comes into regular to pass, okay? We get the ball back, we rotate one more time, server goes back to serve. It's pretty basic, but that's kind of a rotation. Do we have any questions on that?
The back middle person's rotating out.
Yes, well, you can do it any way you want, honestly.
Where are they coming in?
They'll come into, I've had them come into right back. So if I go to serve and I miss, okay, I'm out, and then the next person comes into right back, right? So then my next rotation is here, here, and here, and then I go back to serve. You can do it any way you want. That's just a way to kind of keep the kids in the game, not sitting on the bench. okay? Anybody have any questions about the rotations? Rotations? I suggest that usually there's outside hitters, there's setters, there's middle blockers. I'd get your first 6 the best servers right in a row. Just kind of do it that way, all right? You guys can come on over here. All right, so were there any questions about the rotations? Like I said, these are suggestions. You guys can do it any way you guys want to, okay? There's many different ways. Just like when I show the kids a skill, I tell them my way because that's the only way that I really know. I don't know why, you know, someone like a Misty May does something the way she does. I don't know. I mean, I can ask her, but I just don't know. So there's, you know, when I say you got to do it this way, there's many different ways. For an example, how many of you guys know how to hold your hands when you're teaching these kids how to pass? How many do know? Okay, so just to give you a quick example, like I say, you know, don't always do as I say, not as I do, because I pass this way with my fingers interlocked, but guys can do that because we're made up differently. It's harder for us to get our arms close together, so that gets my arms close together. Okay, girls, I don't trust me, I don't teach that. I would never teach that. It's tough. Girls, I have them, you know, put their hands just like this, and then their thumbs down here, and that gives them, girls can they can manipulate their shoulders in a way to where their hands are this way, okay? So it's just one hand down here, thumbs, butts of your hand together, and down nice and smooth. This is what we call our platform, okay? I like to call these 2x4s. Tell the kids 2x4s. They're like, what's a 2x4? Okay, those are not supposed to break, okay, because a lot of kids do this. Every time you do this, the ball is going to go somewhere else other than where it's supposed to go at the target. Okay, so let's make sure that we're keeping these things as straight as possible. A lot of kids are playing defense this way with their arms bent back here or even out in front. Okay, I like to think less is more. Okay, so if we can do things quickly and efficiently, then it's just going to be a little bit better. Okay, so instead of being here, I always like to just have my hands out and then just open them up. So my arms are already straight, so when I'm digging a ball, I'm here. Now, and I don't want to get too technical into this stuff, but when we're digging, if we can start them at this age, great. Okay, but this is what typically happens when a kid, young kids are playing defense. A ball comes to them right before it's hit. They bring their hands together, and they don't know where the ball's going. And then if it's going from one side to the other, they have to really move their arms and their body to try and get that spot, right? To get that spot. What I like to try and teach them is to hold their hands out and then move one hand over to the other, okay? If they can do it. I mean, every single time I go up and I stop, the girls are like, every single time. It's just a slower movement, that's all. So if we can, again, if we can be more efficient, the balls are they're always on the balls of their feet. Hands down, nice and straight, boom, you're here, boom, you're here. You're always keeping it in front of you. I love defense. Everybody loves offense. I want to be the big hitter. I'm an outside hitter. I get all the accolades. I love defense because it gets into the other team's head. If I can keep it off the ground, I'm gonna wear those guys out. Okay, we're not really worried about that at this age. But if we can start doing it, some of these kids do it, everything's out in front of you here. Okay, so if we can keep them doing that. Any questions so far about anything that I haven't touched on? Anybody? Don't be afraid to ask. There's no dumb questions.
Well, when you were talking about like just the notion of 3 hits or 3 bumps, do you think with third and fourth grade specifically, you wouldn't even mention necessarily a setter in the first couple of weeks?
I wouldn't even with it. What we've been doing with the rotations is we make the setter, whoever's the setter, right front. I have a different view of things in volleyball, in the volleyball world. Right now, it's like, okay, your daughter's a setter, and your daughter's the libero, and your daughter's the middle blocker. I don't understand that, because when I grew up, we all learned how to do everything, and you're a better all-around player for that, and we've gotten away from that in about the last probably 15, 20 years, where everything's specialized. You got to do this, you got to do that, and I don't agree with that, but that's just me. So especially for setting, everybody's got to set. I don't care if you're a middle blocker, you're going to have to set a ball one time. And if you can set that ball and score a point, that might be the difference between winning or losing. So we got to teach these kids how to do everything. And just because your daughter might be small and she's the setter, she might grow to be a middle blocker size, or vice versa. Someone's daughter is tall right now, get her setting, a tall setter, or a libero. Everybody thinks a libero, oh, this tiny little libero. If a college coach for girls could find a 6'2" libero, they'd do it in a heartbeat. Why? Because they're longer, they cover more court if they're just fast, right? So if we can teach our kids a little all-around skill, and that means when we're switching to right front, it makes it easier too, because if you have the middle front do it, I haven't seen, even in 12s and 13s, it's hard for them to set a ball backwards, even in club volleyball. Okay, so you want to give your hitters as much opportunity. So if you make your right front, that gives you the middle front and the outside hitter to at least try and make contact with the ball. We got to reinforce that they can make errors. Okay, we're not taking them out for errors. Okay, I mean, I haven't. I never have. So if you know, you're not going to get better unless you try. Okay, so when they get into hitting, okay, that's another thing. They got to jump. A lot of kids just stay down and hit, you know, and so many times, even at the 15, 16 level, they do the same thing and it hits the top of the tape right here. And of course, they know right away when they all look over at me right when they do that. Like, they already know what I'm going to say. And I say, why didn't you jump? You know, if you jump this high, maybe it goes over the net. So if we can, when they do get the opportunity to hit, tell them to jump. And if they hit it straight down under the net, way to go, you jumped. That's awesome. They hit it to the wall, over the net. That's awesome. Okay.